Hello, and welcome. My name is Philly. I've always been fascinated by history and by the mysteries of the financial world. Tonight, I invite you to join me on a journey through one of the most remarkable financial scandals in history. These are stories of ambition, deception, and downfall. But don't worry, you don't need to stay awake until the end. You can simply let the words guide you into sleep while I tell you the tale of Charles Ponzi, the man who gave his name to the famous Ponzi scheme. It was the year 1920. The city of Boston was alive with excitement. Streetcars rattled along cobblestone streets, shop windows glowed warmly in the evening light, and people hurried past with newspapers tucked under their arms. But in one part of the city, something unusual was happening. Crowds of men and women gathered in front of an office building on School Street. They weren't there for a concert or a show. They were there for money. Inside the building sat a short, charismatic man with dark hair, sharp eyes, and a charming smile. His name was Charles Ponzi, an Italian immigrant who had once arrived in America with little more than hope in his pockets. Yet now, people believed he held the key to wealth and prosperity. Ponzi promised something extraordinary. He claimed he had discovered a way to earn unbelievable profits from a very simple idea: trading international postal reply coupons. At the time, these coupons were used to prepay postage for letters sent abroad. Ponzi explained that by buying them cheaply in one country and redeeming them at a higher value in another, he could make enormous returns. It sounded clever, technical, and most importantly, completely legal. He promised investors that their money would double in just 90 days. Not a year, not 5 years, but only 3 months. In a world where banks paid tiny interest, this seemed almost magical. Word spread quickly. First, a few friends and acquaintances gave him their savings. They were paid back promptly with the promised profit. Delighted, they told others. Soon, shopkeepers, widows, teachers, and businessmen lined up to invest. Even wealthy individuals began handing over vast sums. The truth, however, was very different. Ponzi was not making fortunes with postal coupons. In fact, the idea was practically impossible on a large scale. The coupons existed, yes, but the logistics of buying, transporting, and redeeming them in massive quantities made the plan unworkable. So, how did Ponzi pay his investors? Quite simply, with the money of new investors. The early participants received generous payouts, which created excitement and trust. But those payouts were not profits. They were simply the deposits of the next wave of hopeful customers. This cycle, using new money to pay old promises, is now what we call a Ponzi scheme. And at the time, no one understood it better than Charles Ponzi himself. By the summer of 1920, Ponzi was a celebrity in Boston. Newspapers ran stories about him. He wore fine suits, smoked expensive cigars, and smiled for photographers. Ordinary people believed he had unlocked a secret formula for endless wealth. Some even compared him to financial geniuses of the age. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. Investigators began to ask questions. Could postal coupons really explain the millions flowing through Ponzi's office? Why were so many people investing, yet so few coupons actually being traded? Journalists dug deeper, and authorities became suspicious. In August of 1920, the scheme finally collapsed. When auditors examined Ponzi's accounts, they discovered that his debts were enormous, tens of millions of dollars, far more than he could ever repay. The empire of wealth was nothing but air. Panic spread quickly. The crowds that had once cheered for him now demanded their money back. Banks, courts, and police swirled into action. Ponzi was arrested and charged with fraud. In the end, thousands of people lost their life savings. The damage was estimated at around $15 million at the time, a staggering sum equal to hundreds of millions today. Charles Ponzi spent years in prison. Later, he was deported back to Italy, where he lived the rest of his life in obscurity and poverty. His name, however, lived on, forever tied to schemes that promise the impossible and deliver nothing. And so, the tale of Charles Ponzi is more than just a story of crime. It is a reminder of how easily hope and greed can blind us, how even intelligent people can be swept away by promises of quick riches, and how fragile trust can be when it is built on deception. As you drift off to sleep tonight, let this story settle gently in your mind. May it remind you that not everything that shines is gold, and that sometimes the brightest promises hide only shadows. Good night.